Everything you need to know and more about heating and cooling, electrical, garage doors, and plumbing is right here, right now, on the Absolute Home Service Podcast.
Hello again. We are thrilled you're joining us for another episode of the Absolute Home Service Podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts, Vince Hauser, and today we are going to be talking about indoor air quality. How fun. So I'm here with Tom Cowell from Premier One. They are the provider of our indoor air quality products that we promote through Absolute Services. And also here with my co-host, James.
Good morning. You say how fun, but from what I've learned here so far, this is going to be a pretty interesting episode for our listeners because of the benefits and everything that indoor air quality has. I'm very interested in listening to this one here and learning and hearing what you've got to say, Tom.
Cool. Welcome back.
Yeah, and why don't you, Tom, introduce yourself?
Again, my name is Tom with Premier One Products, and we are a manufacturer of indoor air quality products for 30 years. We make products that bring relief for people that have issues with either asthma, allergies, cooking odors, pet odors within the home, and the thing that's so important on people's minds these days, the bacteria, viruses that exist, especially with COVID. It's so much in the forefront of people's minds.
Outstanding. You want to kick off the questions, James?
Yeah. So, Tom, coming onto this podcast here, what we're trying to do is deliver as much information and knowledge to our homeowners about the services that us at Absolute Services provide, different things that homeowners can do inside of their property to stay safe. So the question that I've got to kick everything off is, what is indoor air quality?
It's a great question, and everybody kind of has their own concept of really what that is. To try to make that easier for everybody to understand, what we've standardized on is what actually the CDC, the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, I think everybody knows who they are these days.
Yeah.
They did, very unfortunate. But some years ago, they did a really detailed study trying to identify exactly what's going on within a residence on the indoor air perspective. And it's kind of interesting, it boils down into almost thirds equally. But there's three main phases of indoor air pollution, and I'll use that word because it is indeed pollution. One of them is particles, and that would be, I think, what most people are familiar with, especially for dusting and all. The source of those is kind of interesting as well, and some of them are not real fun, but dust mite, pet dander, all the different things, the flaking of your skin, all those kind of things attribute to the particles that are in your home, and as we'll talk about hopefully what situations that provides for people that are in a bad place if they're looking for a solution from those, whether it be a hay fever, an asthma, an allergy, or something along those lines. Another segment, one of the other thirds, is the thing that is most prevalent, I think, in most people's minds today, and that is the bacteria, viruses, molds, and mildews that exist in homes. And obviously we know now we've got a lot of supporting documentation for what we have been kind of preaching for 30 years, that there are some bad things out there. And everybody's familiar with the common colds and flu. But this coronavirus is a pretty interesting virus in and of itself. And that there are indeed solutions for that can help people that are never going to stop anybody from getting sick or getting the cold or the flu. But there are products that Absolute markets that will help them from not spreading around. When you come home with a cold and you look around the family, okay, who's next? Who's going to get it next? So there's that segment that is important. And then the final segment that the CDC identified would be, technically they refer to it as the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds in the house. Very simply stated, those are the odors, chemicals, and gases that we have. The odors and chemicals come from mostly materials. As we buy new furniture, almost all new furniture today is a composite. So when you talk about a composite, you're talking about the layers of material all glued together, and those chemicals off gas. In other words, they never totally cure for a long period of time. And as they cure, those molecules off gas into the living space, and lots of people suffer from a dull headache, and they can't have it for a long time. Remodel, putting carpeting in, something along those lines, and all of a sudden they're going, "Where's this dull headache? I can't get rid of this dull headache." So those are those things that are really airstream. That again, there is a solution to eliminate that. Many people try try to, cooking odors, pet odors, those types of things, and they will purchase something that they can plug in the wall and try to overcome that odor. The reality of it is that or sprays, they may mask that odor, but they never really eliminate the odor. And regrettably, what happens on that as well is that the chemicals that are in that spray or in that solution are really actually worse for them than the situation they're trying to mask.
You know, at my house, I've accused my wife for many years of trying to kill me. And then after I heard Tom's presentation the first time, it totally validated that all that crap that she was plugging in our walls, she was absolutely trying to kill me.
You know,
Unintentionally, I hope.
I don't know.
I'm seeing a trend here.
I question that.
I'm definitely seeing a trend here with all the stuff that we can stop in our house. You know, stuff that's being plugged in, or with this here, we can. We now have valid excuses to not use them anymore. So there's certain scents and candles and stuff that burn in my house that I now have a very valid reason to let my wife know why we can't use them anymore. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The other big take that I took out of the presentation that I've seen in the past. Of course, we can't put this stuff on TV when we're doing a podcast, but you know, one of the biggest polluters in your house is you. You know, and it's nasty. You know, it's like it's our own skin, and as long as you're living and breathing, you are polluting your own house.
Well, so, and Tom, so you've mentioned, you know, skin flakes, pet odors. You know, Vince just mentioned us being the biggest polluter. What are some different components or different equipment that Premier offers, or Premier One offers, that we can install that would be able to combat those situations?
We can address that, I guess, by segment. Take a look at particles first, and a little background on that before we get into solutions and why we need a solution, really.
Okay.
Homes, since the energy crisis, a lot of people may not be aware of that, some of the listeners, but back in the early 70s, there was a real energy crisis, and that really was the genesis of where we are today with the more efficient equipment and actually more energy efficient homes as well, tighter homes is what I mean by that. Just trying to be good stewards of our energy costs. The equipment that we're marketing today versus 20, 30 years ago is much more efficient. If you remodel your home, I think everybody's aware of that little crack over there. I got to fill that up with foam so we don't get air into the house. And you put in energy efficient windows and doors and insulation.
Well, you know, and back shortly after Obama went in office, I mean, we did a lot of work out there, you know, because they put a lot of government money out there to seal up your house, insulate your house. You know, I mean, you know, like on the garage door side of things, the government was giving you money to do extra insulated garage doors. You know, that's all been promoted now for the last 15 years very, very heavily. And the new homes, I mean, a lot of those are just unbelievably tight homes.
They are, and that's new requirements from codes to make them that energy efficient. And what happens in that is, not that that's bad, but the one aspect that is not good is that there's no outside air that gets into the home to eliminate some of the bad air that is in there. The EPA will tell you the air inside of a home can be anywhere from 10 to 100 times worse than the outside air. That's not a good space to be in. We have just volumes of white papers from medical people that will document the situations that people will experience living in, as I like to refer to it, that chemical soup in their home. Believe it or not, it's to the point today that almost 8 out of 10 homes that your technicians are on a daily basis, somebody in that household has actually got something going on that needs a solution.
Yeah, and in our region, the Louisville metro area ranks in the top 5 of worst air in the country every single year, and has for many, many years, because we basically live in a big hole. We got hills all the way around the entire metro, and it just sucks in all that air, bad air.
Yeah, well, and personally speaking, you know, I've got, myself has got a lot of allergies, you know, different, you know, dust mites and pollen and things like that. So, yeah, I'm one of those people in the house that has an issue that needs a resolution for sure.
And it used to be, when we were talking to customers, it would be, does anybody in your house suffer from whatever that might be, that from is. Now it's how many in your household are in that situation where they're looking for a solution.
Yeah, I'm in the same allergy boat. I've been allergy shots, allergy medicine. Most people would die from the amount of allergy medicine I take on a daily basis.
Right.
But
It's an interesting place we find ourselves in today. So all that to say, there is a foundation for this. It's not something that you might or might not need. The other part of it, there is such a realization now with the exposure that we've been made more aware of with the COVID, with the pandemic. But it's not just that. I mean, that's created the awareness, but literally almost 8 out of 10 homes prior to the pandemic, that situation has existed. So people really are looking for solutions for that. We're talking about particles. I want to take a little bit of a dive into the technology behind particles because there's something that most people will not understand. I think everybody knows that with the allergies and whatnot, those are typically particle-driven. Particles, we're talking about those things we mentioned earlier. For the people that have the asthma, allergy, and hay fever kind of suffering. But what is really interesting is that the air inside your home, 98% of the particles that are in your home are really minute. They're microscopic in size. When I say microscopic in size, there's a value measurement of a micron, which is like 1/100th of a human hair in size. You can typically not see them, but everybody I think has experienced that sunbeam that comes in the window.
mm-hmm.
And when that comes in at the right direction, you can see all the stuff that's in the air that typically you would not be able to see. And what the medical guys would tell you is that it's those microscopic particles that really are the root cause for people that have those upper respiratory problems. So traditional filtering is one solution for that, but it's limited insofar as how effective it can be, because the more effective it is, to be more effective, it needs to be more dense, and that causes problems with moving air through your home and your system. It causes cause problems with the system.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to look at a different technology to be able to do that. I'm not saying that traditional filtering is bad. We love it, it's good stuff, but it's limited in its effectiveness.
Yeah, and I mean, the majority of the filtration that goes on in an HVAC system is not for you. It's for the system. You know, well, actually, like almost all of that filtration that comes with it is really designed to keep that system clean. You know, the system manufacturers really don't care about you. They care about whether or not their system's going to last for 10 or 15 years or however long they want to warranty that product. So.
Regrettable but true.
Yeah, and then the other thing on filtration, because we go into houses, you know, a lot where they're like, well, I bought this $100 filter from XYZ company, you know, whether it be Walmart, Amazon, or whatever. And what happens a lot of times on that is that those filters are so dense that they're, you know, they might stop some particles. They're not going to stop everything that Tom's bringing up, but it doesn't allow enough air into the system, and they're actually damaging their HVAC system because they over filter the air that's allowed to move through that system. So, you know, just by going out and buying a filter and thinking that you're doing something good, a lot of times you're creating even more problems for yourself.
Yeah, unfortunately, something well-intended ends up in a bad place.
Right.
So you do offer a solution that is a different technology, and it's just a very simple solution that acts like a big magnet. It's a very easy installation, very economical to implement, and it's an opportunity to acts like getting real technical, acts like a big magnet that allows for the particles as they move through a system, because when you're moving air, you generate friction, and that friction changes these particles to a positive charge. And this filter is a negatively charged base, so you have negative charge, positive particles. It literally can collect particles down to that microscopic size that, again, the medical guys represent is the root cause of people that have those upper respiratory issues. So that sunbeam, if you like that kind of cool look in your house, this is not the solution then, because this will take away those microscopic particles and allow for the relief. The typical filtering can help to a point, but really is not the solution.
Yeah, so when we started looking into this, I mean, there's a lot of products out there that make some big claims. The advantage that we saw on the Premier One product is that just about every HVAC system out there will accommodate their product. And it may be there's probably some type of rare exception, but in our market, I've yet to see one that we could not use our filters in them. And the big thing is there doesn't need, very, very rarely does there need to be any modification of ductwork to use them, and that's huge. You know, because some of the manufacturers do make filters that are not electronic. Some are electronic, but they require a very large filter box being put in there. Well, in a lot of homes, especially older homes, there's not enough space to even accommodate those filters. I mean, when you go in there, I mean, those walls are built almost tight to the unit. In some cases, the unit is I mean, that's the entire closet. So, you know, virtually all of them have at least a 1-inch filter hole, and that accommodate the standard filter that you're going to buy anywhere that's designed strictly for the system. So what that allows us is we can take that old paper filter that you paid a couple bucks for and throw it in the garbage, and then usually within 20 or 30 minutes we can have the electronic filter in, have it wired in. It's going to be all automatic, and basically it only requires changing the filters 3 or 4 times a year.
Right.
So.
And it's not gonna take your electric bill into the orbit either.
Right.
That's a good thing. We want to keep that thing down and not astronomical. But now, are these systems and stuff that you have and that you all offer, are they for more of your traditional HVAC system, or do they also work on like geothermal units as well?
Actually, they're great solutions for geothermal units because those units are usually what we refer to as like jumbo size.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the residential applications are standard size, and obviously those are all available. We will construct one whatever size you need it to make it fit into that application.
Yeah, and in full disclosure on that, which you probably didn't even know when you asked that question, but I have geothermal in my house. That filter is about 3 times the size of a normal filter. I even had to special order it. Took a couple more days to get it, but it's been wonderful. And just the difference, and this was a huge thing, like on geothermal, I mean, these filters are ridiculously priced for the people that have those, and by putting in the electronic one, probably within 3 years of changing filters, I will have paid for what it costs to get the electronic filter put in. And the replacement filters that we use, or the Premier One has in their product, you don't actually replace the whole filter. You open, it's basically a metal screen, if you will, that holds a filter in it. So you pop that out, open it up, change the guts of it, and stick it back in. I mean, that's about as quick as it can be. I think it's even easier because those paper filters that I've used in the past, when I did change the filter, which I was not always the best at remembering to do, but like the filter wants to collapse, and you just about have to rip the thing out of there. It almost always ended up breaking it. Where these metal ones, they slide in and slide out very easy.
Yeah, it's easy to do. In fact, my wife can even do it. And it's thinking of my wife, if I can, a little personal testimony of what that product can actually perform. Regrettably, my wife does have asthma. And when the filter technology changed in a very good way about 3-4 years ago, I had to, we were talking about how dense they can be and cause some problems. The new filter, a lot more efficient, was released to the marketplace, and I jumped all over that trying to provide some relief for my wife with her asthma. To do that, unfortunately, or fortunately, we had to make modifications to the ductwork to overcome that additional resistance so it didn't damage the system, as you were talking about earlier. And very hopeful, spent the dollars to do that to provide some relief for my wife. And we'll tell you honestly, it helped, but it wasn't the solution. So at that point in time, we said, okay, we'll just have to, not okay, but our next step would be to put in a whole house filtration type of filtration system at significant expense. But for someone's health, what's the difference? It's what you do. I was introduced then to this technology. I put one in our home, and literally the next day, my wife, who has asthma, didn't say anything because she has good day, bad days. But on a Sunday, as I put it in on a Friday afternoon, she came to me, and for y'all that are married, the conversation started with a finger wave.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of went, oh boy, what's this all about? I was always doing something to our system, either test product or to she said, you've been messing with the furnace again. And I thought, here we go. So I manned up and I said, yeah, I put a new filter in Friday. Why? And she explained to me that Saturday, she felt a difference, but again, good day, bad day kind of thing. And Sunday, she said, I had to tell you, the heaviness in her chest was finally gone. Relief was what we were looking for. She finally experienced that. And what it did for me is it just really validated what the medical guys keep saying, is that 98% of the particles that are in a home are that small. And not that traditional filtering is bad, it has value, but it can't be that dense to take those particles out of the air. So it is, it's an opportunity to be a game changer in a lot of ways for people's lives.
So what's the difference in that? And you said that was a HEPA filter. So what exactly does that do? Is it designed for smaller particles?
We'll get into that. Let me say that we have a 3-step deal with the whole filtration process, or not filtration, not a good indoor air quality process. What we're speaking out right now is what we consider like a level 1, and that's the electronic filter. The level 2, which I think we'll get into next, is going to be the UV light systems.
Talk about that.
Yeah, and then the third, which is for the extreme cases, or where this HEPA filtration comes in. But we'll talk UV lights next, and the benefits of them, because they're, you know, what most people don't understand is there's multiple phases of cleaning your air, and those particulates from a breathing component. That's probably I may be speaking for you, Tom, but I'm gonna say from a breathing component, that's the most important. But the UV lights have some tremendous health benefits as well, not necessarily breathing. Anyways, you can speak to us on like the level 2 deal with the UV lights, and you know, in this pandemic time right now, that's one of the big things that we're asked about daily is UV lights. And you know, when we found Tom's product, what we really liked about those is that it was the strongest UV lights that you can use really in a residential system. But I'll let Tom speak on it, because he is a little better about that than I am.
You're doing just fine, but I'll take it. What I want to do is go back to that baseline we spoke of initially, and that's that the 3 phases of indoor air pollution identified by the CDC. The first thing that we talked about was the particles, people with the upper respiratory situations, the asthma, allergy, hay fever kind of things. The second segment would be the bacteria, viruses, molds, and mildews. These are all referred to as bioaerosols, and they're living organisms. And certainly we have a lot more of understanding in the market today about viruses, just based on where we're at with the COVID pandemic that we've been experiencing for the last 8 months now.
Mm-hmm.
Too long.
Seems a lot longer than that.
It does indeed. Wow. It's been kind of brutal. But, we have, as an industry, we have used ultraviolet light, which ultraviolet light, let me a little background on that first of all. The products that we manufacture for air purification, to get rid of the bacteria, viruses, molds, and mildew, we use ultraviolet light. And the ultraviolet light is natural, it's what the sun produces. And there's a very special wavelength of the sun that has the opportunity to interact very negatively with these living organisms. It does 2 things to them. One, it will disrupt their DNA, and when their DNA is disrupted, they cannot reproduce, obviously, but also they cannot make you sick, so that's a good thing. The other thing with the right intensity of ultraviolet light is you can eliminate that completely, you can kill it. So what we're doing is just taking what the sun naturally does, and we're doing it at a very high intensity, which is safe, the more the better in this application. And we're using the air moving equipment within a house to eliminate the bacteria, viruses, molds, and mildews that can exist and do exist in homes today. As an industry, what we've used for years is an ultraviolet light that we put over a cooling coil. And the intent of that light was to get rid of the molds and mildews and some of the bacteria that get entrained in there. Cooling coils are very thin metal fins on that bit of ultraviolet light that Mother Nature naturally does to get rid of these things. From our perspective, that is a great product that takes care of just hitting that coil all day, all night, if you will, with ultraviolet light, and that will give you an opportunity to not just sterilize, but to kill them. 99.9% sterilization rate, kill rate of those bacteria, viruses, molds, and mildew. Regrettably, at that intensity, though, the air that's moving through and by that coil is going by with so much volume and so much velocity that that intensity of that lamp really doesn't have real value in effectively addressing what's in the airstream. And these are size, and you get it trained in the area and piggyback on stuff that's in the air as
Well,
well.
let me, so just to be clear on that, so what he's saying, I mean, the UV lights that people put out by the coil killed the stuff that lives on the coil because it was exposed to the light long enough because it's living there. So, but what we're trying to kill and what most people want killed is the stuff that's airborne that's going to be moving through.
Right.
So just because I don't think it's clear enough. I understood what he was saying, but sometimes inside lingo, people don't catch on.
Good way to clarify that. So the whole intent of our product when it was started to be developed 30 years ago was to get rid of the stuff, not just on the coil, we want to maintain that, but again, to get the stuff that's in the airstream, so that you and I were get colds and flus, I can't change that, but where we can have a significant impact is whether or not you pass it around the house anymore. So the other thing people have to understand too is that the natural way of doing it, and when I say that is, I'll ask you, James, do you know why you really don't experience colds and flus in the spring and summertime, but yet they're prevalent in the fall and winter time? In fact, the marketing guys get it, they call it the colds and flu season.
Well, the only thing that I would be able to logically think is that they are just there because people tell me. So you tell me.
They are there. They are there indeed. And the reason that we don't experience that so much in the spring and summertime, hardly at all, is that, again, by nature, Mother Nature, the ultraviolet light from the sun will interact with them because there is more hours of sunshine, the intensity is a little bit higher, and it has the opportunity to eliminate them before we get in and breathe them in.
So that would make a lot of sense on why we want to use a UV light inside of there next to the coil to eliminate a lot of that.
Right.
You know what's interesting, just that when you watch the news daily and you hear all this stuff and all these new we just got handed down a few restrictions a few days ago. Was one of the things is you can eat outside, and now no one goes into great detail about why outside is so much better than inside, but from this, it's pretty obvious that it's UV light. I understood because I've heard Tom's presentation, but I know there's a lot of confusion on why it's okay to be outside and not inside. So that, the whole mask thing, a lot of that, dude, this is the opinion of Vince, by the way, but, depending on what type of mask you have, I'm going to say the majority of them are absolutely worthless because it goes back to what you're filtering now. But anyway, I'm sorry.
No worry. So you take it down to the other fall and winter time, we have decidedly less hours of sunshine through the day, maybe 8, 9. And the intensity isn't the same. So it's just natural that Mother Nature can eliminate a lot of these things before we get in contact with them and cause issues for us. So we're a privately held company, and the owner of our company is just really a crazy smart engineer that has a heart, I like to say, bigger than Montana. And what his product design was at the time was to not just we're headquartered in Green Bay, Wisconsin, so you can imagine the extended colds and flu season that exists out there. So we want to have a product that provide real value for people in that cold and flu time, in addition to take care of the efficiency of the coil. So with that in mind, he knew that the industry average output of that lamp is 55 microwatts. That's how they measure the microwatts. He knew that wasn't getting it done, but he didn't know how much he needed to get it done. So he enlisted the support of one of the manufacturers of ultraviolet light, and more than just a manufacturer, they're kind of like the understanding manufacturer of what we do in our HVAC world. And he asked them for some help in his product development, and they absolutely agreed to do that. One of the things that needed to be determined was how much air we're moving and how fast we're moving it through a system. The intensity is kind of a no-brainer thing, the brighter the better. But how much air you move and interact with it's really important to that as well. So our system is designed for any residential system, no matter how big your house is. One system fits all, basically. If it's a big system, a 5-ton system, a 4-ton system, it's perfect for that. If it's a 1-ton, 2-ton system, it's also perfect for that. So it's a very simple application from that perspective. And what it has is the ability to interact with the microorganisms that are entrained in the airstream. In that the output of our lamps is rated at 180 microwatts, which is typically 3 to 4 times more powerful than what is in the marketplace today. get that benefit of taking care of all this, things we were trying to do initially with that light intensity lamp. We get getting rid of all the stuff that's in the airstream as well. Just a crazy effective job of sterilizing the air in your home.
Are you gonna have to raise or lower the microwatts depending on the size of the house or the system?
No, it's essentially a one-size-fits-all. It's designed for the maximum size of the home, so the smaller the home, the more effective it is. And tested, certified that one pass of air past our lamp, basically at 110 microwatts, which is our basis of design, will eliminate 70 to 85%. So multiple passes, you've done an extraordinary job of getting them through the home.
And in the average home, I mean, your air is, well, as long as you have your air turned on, or air conditioning, or your HVAC system, I guess would be the proper thing to say. I mean, that all the air in your house is going to exchange multiple times a day. So, you know, if it's not, you have an issue in your HVAC system. So, you know, it's probably going to be in the hundreds of times a day, you know, depending on what time of the year and how long it's running. And one of the things I found out when I first heard the presentation, I mean, and I do this in my own home, is, you know, we, instead of having that fan at auto, we leave the fan on, you know, on our system, and just so that more air gets filtered and more air gets cleaned, and, you know, with that, because if the system's not on and it's not exchanging air, none of it's working. So.
The more the better when it comes to air.
And of course, I mean and the system we use has a two UV light system. So I mean, he's speaking on one UV light now, and then we've got a secondary that takes care of some other stuff. I'll let him elaborate. I don't want to take over the program.
So the
even though it's mine, but
you're doing fine. So the last segment really would be that last third of what's going on in
right.
the home is the chemicals, odors, and gases. And those again are something that we just don't mask like you would with a spray. We eliminate them. How we eliminate them again is the natural way. We just do what the sun normally does. We recreate, if you will, that wavelength of ultraviolet light that is effective at breaking down molecularly that odor, chemical, or gas. And odors and chemicals, gases, they're all molecules. And the ultraviolet light essentially breaks down at a molecular level that, say, formaldehyde, a nasty chemical, it breaks it down into something that's benign. So that is gone. That ammonia smell from the cat box, it breaks that down molecularly so that smell is gone. If you like cooking bacon, like smell of bacon like I do.
Don't tell me we're going to eliminate that.
Over a period of time, yeah, it's gone. Sorry to say that. But it's not immediate, so you get to enjoy that for a half hour. So. But you'll enjoy the bacon smell at 8 o'clock in the morning, but not at 2 a.m.
That's a good time to not smell it anymore.
So it's just a very simple way of doing what Mother Nature does naturally, and applying that to residential applications. Again, because all of these things that we're working with are microscopic and they get entrained in the air. We're using what we already have existing there, the smart way to do it, no additional stuff required, if you will. And eliminating the particles, eliminating the bacteria and viruses, eliminating chemicals, odors, and gases, and just leaves the house smelling fresh and clean.
Yeah, so I mean, the gist of that, I mean, all we're trying to do is create what happens naturally outside, recreate that same environment inside. And you know, the Premier One product is by far the best one that we found on the market. I mean, there are some competitors, you know, selling different UV lights and making some ridiculous claims on what they can do. And when, unfortunately, on a podcast, we can't really show you, but the difference in size of UV lights and what that does on the Premier products versus those competitors is unbelievable. And then, of course, the performance is there as well. Now, the downside, and you know, this came up even discussing with several people about it. It's really hard to say, well, we saved you from getting sick, because there's no way that I can say, well, you were going to get sick and my product kept you from getting sick. But what we can say is any virus that goes through there, it's killing it. So would you have gotten sick? The chances are far greater that you would have. You know, but there's no way that we can guarantee that we saved you from anything. So, you know, because this whole corona deal, virus, virus. I mean, if it's airborne, it's going to kill it. I mean, it's not different, not any different than any other virus in how it lives, you know. But
The one thing to just kind of qualify that though is that, am I confident like you are that we'll get it? Because it's a nasty flu strain basically. It's a coronavirus, and it's coronavirus that we've had much success against eliminating. The only thing we can't say technically
right.
is that we can kill the COVID-19. The best analogy I can give you is that we may live in the same zip code, but your address is very different from mine.
Right.
Very similar neighborhood and very similar viruses, but nobody yet has had the opportunity to test against that specific strain of 19. Am I confident? Do I sleep well at night? Yeah, because I know the technology. I know it's similar to other things.
Yeah, and the disclaimer on it, you know, because there always has to be, it is that if you're in super close contact and you get it directly from somebody, you know, that you're in the house with, there's no product in the world that's going to stop that. If you touch something that somebody else just touched that has it, or you're shaking hands, there's no UV light in the world that's going to stop that.
Nothing.
And you know, but if it's airborne and it's in your house within an hour or two, it's going to kill it. I mean, you don't. I mean, if you understand how that works with UV light and viruses, I mean, there's almost no one that can convince me that it's not going to kill it when it's in the air. But I don't have scientific proof to back that up because I have no idea in the world how you would even start to do that.
Yeah. But I think the simple thing to think of is if you're comfortable outdoors, you'd be comfortable indoors with this product.
Right.
Now, you've mentioned several times that it will, like, you know, replenish the air, or it kind of like circulates the air around. What on an
It
average
does not.
size house?
Let me change. It does not circulate the air. The HVAC system circulates the air. It cleans the air, or the UV light kills anything in there. The filter is what cleans. The electronic filter is what cleans the particulates in the air.
Very good clarification. So on that note, does it depend on the HVAC system on how much circulation is created to determine how long it takes per house to actually circulate it across the electronic filter?
There's a lot of variables that go into there. You know, I mean, that's a big question, but the short answer is yes. But what I'll say on that, it goes back to what I said earlier. I mean, it's only your HVAC system is only moving air when it's on. Number one. So if you never turn it on and you open up your windows, the system ain't working. You know, none of what we do works. Now, when that system is actively running, it's moving air, and the way it works, we wire it in so it only all of this, the UV lights and the filter, only turn on when the system's on. So, I mean, instead of what we did in my house and what he promotes and when he's doing the full-on presentation, is you actually leave the fan on. It's a very, very low level. A lot of in any mechanical deal, I mean, the startup is where the biggest use of energy is. So by leaving that fan running, especially when you're on a higher efficiency system where that fan's running at a very low speed, it is a very, very, very minute amount of energy that's being used to operate that fan. So we leave the fan on 24/7 on ours.
So leaving that fan on, is that reducing the lifetime of the system? Is there any maintenance that needs to be done on it?
Not really. Actually, you hit it right on the nose. You're starting and stopping something that has more stress on it than when you're running the whole time.
Yeah. No different than your car.
Right. They're made to run the whole time. So
Right.
they can handle that.
Yeah. So and then the filtration that's in there, the filter is going to do a much better job of keeping your system clean because it's cleaning the air. So you know, the cleaner that air is that's passing through your HVAC system in general is going to promote longevity in that system as well, along with what you're breathing. So, but then, you know, and that's level 1 and that's level 2. Most cases, that solves most people's predicament. And then, you know, the last thing, of course, you were trying to jump way ahead as usual, James, was the HEPA.
I like to skip to the Cadillac.
And so that's our like third level or the highest level of indoor air quality product that we sell, and we do sell a fair amount of them, so I'll let Tom speak on that.
Yeah, some people are, and some people are not familiar with HEPA filtration. Where you would normally find that is in hospital medical applications. You also find it in assembly where they're doing like circuit boards and those types of things, where the smallest little particle will render that board useless. So it has the ability, very similar to the 1-inch filter that we spoke of earlier, the electronic type filter, has the ability to take those microscopic particles out of the air. And technically, to be certified a HEPA filter, it needs to be able to eliminate 99.97% of particles down to 1/3 of 1/100th of a human hair. So imagine how small that is. Maybe a better visual of that is if I had 10,000 of those 0.3 particles in a space, it has to be able to eliminate all but 3 of them. That's how effective it is. So for anybody that has like a COPD or a chronic upper respiratory issue, it is the solution that doctors would be recommending for that.
Yeah, and this goes back to what I was talking about on the original. You know, we sometimes when we present this to customers, they'll say, well, I already have a HEPA filter in my system. And well, first off, I'm going to say it is highly unlikely, even though the package may have said it was a HEPA filter. You know, and there's some manufacturers of HVAC equipment that sell what they consider HEPA filtration as well, which take a huge, and this goes back to the filter size, because it takes a huge filter box, because you have to expand that out so much because of that restricted airflow that it's going to destroy your HVAC system, you know, when you get that level of filtration. So if you can explain a little bit of how that works and how your HEPA system will allow that ultrafiltration and not affect the system.
Yeah, great question, and it's a good statement too. If somebody says they have a HEPA filter, the odds are it's probably not. And the reason the odds are it's probably not is that to be able to collect, imagine 3 out of 10,000 particles left over at that size, it would have to be so dense that if you were to think of your filter at your home, if you put a filter in your home that dense, you might as well put a piece of plywood in where that filter goes.
Right.
Because you're not going to pass any air through that, and your system will suffer severely from that. Basically, burn itself up trying to overcome that resistance. So the way that that is avoided with our product, it's referred to as a bypass HEPA filter. What we mean by that is it's installed on the return side of the system, where the air that's been in your home is coming back, come back into the system to get filtered, heated and cooled, and sent back out in the living space. And it's pulling air from the return through the filtration and putting it right back into the return system. So it's not like it's at the base of that return where all the air is going through. A certain percentage of it is going through. And when it does it that way, pulling it out of the existing airflow, putting it right back into the existing airflow on the return side of the system, there's no increase of that static that causes issues for the system.
To the system itself, you know, it doesn't even know it exists.
It doesn't. It's no different.
So, you know, so then you still have the other filter that we've already installed. That's your electronic filter that's continuously cleaning all of the air that moves through on every pass. So, you know, that was a little bit of it. It took me to understand how that works. So it takes more passes of that air to get 100% of the HEPA filtration through that air, because it's not filtering all the air that moves through every single time. The electronic filter filters every single pass, all the air that goes through. The HEPA filter is only taking out a little bit, filtering it, and putting that little bit right back in. So it's going to take multiple passes to achieve that HEPA filtration level that people want if they're buying a HEPA filter. But, you know, when that fan is running, it's cleaning the whole time. So, you know, within a 20, you know what, because this is the system I put on my house, and I will say it's wonderful, and I promote it to everyone, but within 24 hours, it is unbelievable the difference in what the air is. And, you know, now, you know, when I go into my house, allergies are gone within minutes. It's unbelievable the difference in allergies, because I mean, I've suffered them from early.
So is the HEPA filter, is it something that everyone could or should get, or is this only someone that is experiencing the more severe allergies or the more severe COPD issues and things like that that you had mentioned before?
Anybody that's concerned about air that doesn't have any particles in it is absolutely a great solution. Most of the applications for it, though, are for people that have the serious allergy, asthma, hay fever, COPD.
You know, because if you go back to what he was saying at the very beginning, that electronic filter is going to take out 97, 98% of all the particulates. Now, the only part that he left out a little bit is some of the most particulate, or the particulates that are left, that are those teeny, tiny ones, are typically the ones that are people that are major allergy sufferers. Those are the particulates that they suffer from. So, I mean, for anybody that's listening to this that's an allergy sufferer and has been to an allergy doctor, they are going to know what a HEPA filter is, because the allergy doctors are going to promote them all day long, every day.
Key point, the people that know about a HEPA filter need work.
Yes, bingo. Yeah, so, you know, I mean, and we, and matter, I mean, this is how confident that we are in it. I mean, and we don't do this really on any other product that I'm aware of, maybe is, I mean, we offer 100% money back guarantee. We put this system in your house, 30 days, you got to leave it there for 30 days. And after 30 days, if you don't like it, we will come back in, we will take it out, and we will give you your money back. We are 100% confident that it will work in all cases without exception.
Bold statement.
Drop the mic.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a mic drop. You can't see it. I just dropped mine.
I don't want to drop mine. Greg might get mad at me. These are nice and golden. No, this is a lot of really good information, you know, and this is I'm learning a lot of this, and the more that we go. So, you've mentioned ventilation. You've mentioned different, you know, particulates and different things that come out. Now, for me right now, I am actually remodeling my house.
You know, if you're there during construction, you're going to be replacing it every week, because it stops every
Well,
week.
and my question was more along geared towards the, you know, if I want to redo a little piece of drywall here, or redo this, or do some painting or light sanding or something like that, should we, you know, turn it off, put it, like you said,
Unless
put
you
a
do a
different
major
filter?
surgery remodel, you'll be fine.
Okay. I like to know how to keep my stuff up to date and last as long as
Great question.
possible.
Well, you don't have to worry with our product because it carries a lifetime warranty.
Yeah, the only thing, we don't warranty the filters themselves. In the electronic portion that holds the actual filter, that carries the warranty. The actual filter that's a throwaway product that's inside there. The UV lights, was it 5 years, I believe? How long? 3 years?
Every 2 to 3 years, you should
Yeah.
change them out. And what I mentioned real early on that was on the germ side, I mentioned 180 microwatt
Mhm.
baseline of our product is 110. The 70 microwatt difference is to your benefit in that that's our basis of design that gets that kind of crazy performance. For 3 full years, you're above the line of performance from that. You started at 180. And the reason we started at 180 is that these lights are very similar in use to like a fluorescent lamp. They degrade over time from use. And degradation, taking a deep dive here, but that's about 15% per year. So quick math, 180 after 3 full years of operation, 24/7 operation, you're down at our design criteria. So for 2 years, 3 years, you're above the line of performance.
Yeah, so those components of it, the actual light itself doesn't carry the lifetime warranty. The mechanism that controls the light has a lifetime warranty.
Yep, all the electronics that drive it.
So, I mean, a bulb's a bulb, and there's nobody that makes a bulb that lasts for eternity except somebody above. Well, hopefully it goes. 'Cause if that one goes, we're
As long
all.
as it lasts, as long
It
as
really
we're here.
won't. Yeah, it won't matter, I guess, at
Got a
that
bigger
point.
deal over
Right. Yeah. The quality of our air won't be the issue. It would just be the air, period.
Now, changing those bulbs out, are those something that you would recommend a professional to do? Can a homeowner change out their own bulbs?
I would recommend that the Absolute Services can do that.
Yeah, I mean, it theoretically it could be done, but the majority, I mean, we brought it up in previous podcasts, but we have the total home care club that we have, and the majority of the customers that buy a product like this are concerned about preventative maintenance. and they really don't want to do it themselves. So, you know, we're going to be out there for the heat and air system twice a year when you're part of that program, and that's going to be, you know, things that we look at, and we're going to change those filters and lights as needed for them. But, you know, I mean, we're out there 5 times a year, so, you know, with every trade in that, so that, I mean, that's where all those items are addressed. There will really be no reason for you to have to do it on your own, but in theory you could. The main thing, if they do it on their own, don't look at the bulb, don't take it out with it on and look at it, because you won't be looking at anything else for very long if you continue to do that, because it will blind you.
It won't blind you, but it'll give you, if you ever had a welder's flash, your eyes get real gritty and you're not a happy camper for about a day and a half.
Yeah. Or blind you, as I said. I've been around some guys that wear welder's flash, and they wish they were just blind and not experiencing the pain that went along with it.
It's not a fun feeling at all. Like you're sand in your eyeballs.
Indeed.
Right. So, but I know one that, I mean, we brought up, you know, in the pre-meeting when we were discussing all this, the carbon monoxide. I'll address that real quickly. You know, it doesn't eliminate carbon monoxide. There's really no way to eliminate that other than fresh air. So, you know, in our market, where it's a big, you know, natural gas market, there's a lot of furnaces in our market, and though all furnaces will produce some carbon monoxide, it is virtually impossible for that not to happen. Most of the time, those are minute levels. This system is not going to control that. The only way you can control that is have a properly functioning furnace. So, you know, one of the things that we do during the, you know, the fall tune-ups when we're going in there and looking at your furnace is we take meters in there to where we can measure the carbon monoxide. In most cases, it's at those minute levels. There have been cases that we got in there and it's like, whoa, we need to get the heck out of here because we're all going to die because that furnace is putting out such high levels. And typically that's where we're going to be replacing the furnace, because well, there's a variety of things that can cause it, but in most cases, if you've got the super high levels of carbon monoxide, you're at a level to where it's going to be more beneficial to replace it than it is going to be to repair it. But we always give options either way and let the homeowner decide on what to do, you know, to address that. But you know, that was one of the initial, you know, I know items that came up before we started today, discussing that with Tom. So.
And one question that I do have, me as a homeowner and as a pet owner, is this going to be something that does help reduce with the, you know, the odors and all that stuff that the dog also puts off with all of his good,
Yeah,
fun,
we have a
great
dog.
stuff?
We have a dog, and my wife has 2 cats. I'll let you figure that one out. But yeah, you know, dogs stink. You know, I love our dog.
Right.
Dogs stink. And that kind of an odor, yeah, especially the cat box stuff. The ammonia is really difficult to get rid of. It eliminates that as well. So, love your dog.
Yeah, but any smell that's in the house, it's going to eliminate. Now, if that smell, you know, I mean, because these kind of questions come up about the smells. If you stick your nose to the dog's going to smell, and you're going to smell it. You know, you know, and the odor that's been out there for a little bit, this system eliminates it. Because what you have to remember is that air where that smell is has to move through the HVAC system to be cleaned. So if you don't have your system on and you got your stinky, nasty dog in the house, you're going to continue to smell your stinky, nasty dog. When you turn your system on, a few hours later, that smell will be gone.
So I need to turn my fan on and train my dog to stay over by the return.
That would be the best option. I've never really thought about it that way, but yeah, train them to lay on the return, and that would be dog cleanliness 101. So
It's an air purification, not a dog purification system.
So, you got any more questions, or did that sum that up, James?
That is a vast amount of knowledge. That covers a lot of questions that I had, and quite quite honestly, I didn't get to ask a lot of my questions because you answered them as you were going. It was a lot of really solid information, and I can say that 100% for a fact that when I am finished remodeling my house, this system will be installed on my property.
Cool.
All right, Tom, well, thank you for coming in today. You had how long of a trip did you drive in here
Just a
today?
short 5 hours.
Yeah, they came in, drove for 5 hours to come and visit with mainly me. I know you don't like James, but
Speculation.
so so anyway, we thank our listeners for listening to this episode, and I do think that this will probably be one of the most listened to episodes. Some tremendous value in there, and it'll answer a whole lot of questions that our service experts get asked on a daily basis when they're out there promoting this product. So if you are in need of one, absoluteservices.com. That's our website address. I'm the owner, Vince Hauser. You look us up online, you can find us, Premier One. Is it PremierOne.com? Is that the
PremierOneProducts.com.
or PremierOneProducts.com? You can go there and check out the whole system on there. But we would love to come out and show it to you, install it. Said that, I mean, it's a absolutely no risk deal, and we've been offering it for quite some time, and not one person has said, "Come get this thing out of my house," and said, "I have it in mind, and it's going to be there forever." So once again, thank you for coming in, and we will hopefully have listeners again next week. So, you got anything to finish, James? Or
Share us, like us, review us. Let us know what you're thinking about all of these different offers and services that we've had on here. We look forward to delivering this information out to everyone else in the future. And then Tom, again, thanks for stopping in, and it was awesome hearing you.
all right, thank you.